Hello and welcome to week 7, the week we finally get to see something. All the time we've been working to try to make some sense out of our data, but the one thing we haven't been able to do is really show it to another person until this week. So this week we created a sitemap, and what the sitemap was built upon was some research you did into taxonomies. Taxonomies are let's hope you found one that was appropriate to your content, because taxonomies are something we invent all the time to help us make sense of the world and all the things that we create. So if you have yet to find a taxonomy and you had to make one up, you might still have a little bit more work to do. But however, I see a lot of you, there's some work here on art, there's some work on albums, and this is where you get to a concept like genre. Genre is just another word for a taxonomy of how do you kind of make sense of all this music out there. So there's a lot of grouping concepts here, and what you're going to do this week is you're going to pick a box pretty much. For example, you'd pick one of these boxes on your sitemap and you're going to do a wireframe of it. So before we get there, what's going to be on that wireframe? Well, the other thing I asked you guys to explore was navigation. So if you looked at your sitemap and you kind of put 2 and 2 together, you'd say, well, I've got to put all this stuff on a page and I have to put it somewhere so people would be able to interact with it. And that's why I wanted you to go through all these techniques. I know you only picked one, but you should be able to kind of look and get a feel for the different kinds of navigation styles and which one is going to suit you. Well, it could be a very simple one. It could just be a drop-down menu. It could be a side menu, top menu. You don't have to get too creative, but this was here to help you, if you wanted to get creative, find a different way or a different style to showcase some of your information. Some of this might become more relevant later because I want you to do a detail page, meaning sometimes there's a top level page and then there's a detail page. So you might start out at one page, go to a deeper level, and then go to a deeper level. And that's something we're going to do actually to finish this project next week. You're also welcome to think about mobile, but actually this week I'm going to hopefully concentrate on not being too worried about the viewport. And let me show you how we're going to do that. So that's wrapping up last week. Nice work, everybody. And just to let you know, when you turn in this final project, it's going to include this sitemap in it, as well as your wireframe. Plus, we're going to take one more step and we're going to do a flow next week. But they'll all be kind of included together within, and let me show you maybe where you'd like to do that. On to week 7. So while it's always important to start with the module on Canvas, I can go reference that as well. I've got still more instruction here and more pointed activities here on Mural. So just remember, start there and then come here. So this is about the word wireframing, and this is the goals of what wireframing as well as a video. But it's basically taking your content, you're going to take that HTML structure and you're going to show it. So we're really interested in things like headers and groups, as we were when we created that HTML. And then we're going to add that taxonomy, which the navigation around it. And that's really what we're going to depict. And there's some ideas here, some concepts I want you to take a look at. One tool that I'm really quite fond of is called Figma. It is, there's another tool called Sketch. You can imagine Sketch is a program that you can download. You get a 30-day free trial if you're really on a Mac and would like to play with Sketch. It's a great program. But Figma is almost exactly the same, and it's online and it's also free for a limited amount of projects. So I would create things in Figma or Sketch or on a piece of paper. So here's my piece of paper. Just to let you know, it's a little faint, but that just drawing things out gets the job done too. It's a lot quicker, so no worries there. So one important thing about wireframes is we don't want any color. We don't want any distraction other than looking at the structures. And those structures are important for us to understand. Are we doing a good job? Are we making sure things make sense? Are they in the right relationship to each other? I definitely want real content, so do not use lorem ipsum. There's a little tip here. If you do use Sketch, you can actually take your data and use it to create repeatable elements. So if we're thinking, and we should be thinking a lot about repetition, that's really why we're exploring content in this manner, that we're thinking of having hundreds of thousands of examples, not just 5 or 6. So this plugin helps you play around with large data sets, but again, that's just optional. As a pro, you're probably going to write it out by hand because you only need to do 3 records. So you're going to have that one page within your sitemap show, basically help me understand how you got there by having navigation. Maybe you want to show that navigation as being selected so I can tell where you're at. Translate 3 of your records from your HTML, translate that into something visual. But I still want you to respect the work you did in HTML. And that's this week. And look at this huge area to share one wireframe. And just like last week, share something early. I'll be happy to give you some comments if there's something I think you could improve. If you can improve it, do so. Trash your old version and replace it with the new one. I know it's a little weird to, pardon me, it's a little weird to take the comment and move it off and then move the comment back on. I know we want to keep those comments, but really the sharing itself shouldn't be, it's not something that you have to keep there. This is also going to be kind of throwaway, as next week we'll do a bit more with it. So this is just to get that early work. And then there's one question for you guys, because you're going to have this trouble, I believe, within a wireframe is, how does someone understand what is clickable or not? So when something is actionable on a wireframe, you want to be able to notice that, but sometimes it's a little hard to do. So I want you to think a little bit about what is a quality that makes something look like you could touch it or interact with it. So hopefully this is exciting. Finally, we get to show and depict something. Just to let you know, the arc of the course is going to end next week with having depicted a flow. So please do not do that this week. I only need one wireframe, but next week we're going to show, in a sense, the proving out of why your navigation is good by showing it in sequence. So focus on that this week. That's what we're going to be doing. And then next week we'll talk a little bit more about all the extra stuff that we can add that you've been thinking about, like ratings, relationships, anything that turns your content into something more meaningful and that higher level that we're calling knowledge, something contextually understandable and important, let's call it. And then the final week, we're going to go into talking about wisdom. And just to let you know, the goal of this is to have a final paper where you go off and look at another company that's done pretty much what you've done, which is take a very simple, let's hope, simple concept that they've repeated millions of times, a little piece of content, and they figured out how to organize it to build a business. And so you're hopefully going to use all these steps along the way that you've been focusing on to understand and be able to give a little bit of a critique of how they've done it. So keep that in the back of your mind. That's going to be the final paper. And this final project will be due at the end of next week. But this week is just one wireframe for feedback here on Mural. Think about how you depict this to an outside audience, and good luck.